Save him from them. CM Punk brutally ambushed by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed in Raw Mayhem. Where is everybody? CM Punk just got brutalized, and I mean absolutely destroyed, by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed in one of the most vicious beatdowns we've seen on Monday Night Raw in years, and not a single person from the locker room came out to help him. Are you kidding me right now? The man who's been fighting the Vision alone, who's taken beating after beating, who's been betrayed by Logan Paul and abandoned by everyone else, just got ambushed in the parking lot, and the entire WWE roster sat backstage doing nothing. This is disgusting. This is cowardly. And this is exactly why the Vision continues to run roughshod over Monday Night Raw, because nobody has the guts to stand up and help the one guy who's been willing to fight back. CM Punk is lying unconscious in a parking lot, possibly seriously injured, and the so-called locker room leaders are nowhere to be found. Where's Seth Rollins? Where's Drew McIntyre? Where's anyone with even an ounce of courage? Drop in the comments right now. Are you as furious as I am that nobody helped CM Punk, or do you think he brought this on himself by refusing to ask for help? Because I am seething, and somebody needs to answer for this cowardice. Monday Night Raw just aired one of the most brutal segments in recent memory, and it's not just about the physical violence though that was horrific, it's about what this beatdown represents for CM Punk's war against the Vision, for the state of the Raw locker room, and for whether anyone in WWE has the courage to stand up against tyranny when it actually matters. Let me break down exactly what happened, because every second of this ambush was calculated, vicious, and designed to send a message that the Vision is untouchable and CM Punk is alone. Question for the old school fans: when was the last time you saw a beatdown this brutal on WWE television? This felt like Attitude Era levels of violence. The segment started innocently enough. CM Punk was shown leaving the arena after Raw, walking through the parking lot toward his car. He looked exhausted, understandably, given everything he's been through over the past few weeks. The camera followed him in the documentary-style way that immediately tells the audience something bad is about to happen. You could feel the tension building with every step he took. Punk was on his phone, distracted, not paying attention to his surroundings, which in hindsight was a massive mistake but also completely understandable. The man's been through hell. He's tired. He's beaten down. His guard was momentarily lowered. And the Vision pounced on that moment of vulnerability like the predators they are. The ambush came from nowhere. Bron Breakker emerged from between two cars like a demon, hitting Punk with a spear that sent him flying into the side of a vehicle. The impact was sickening. Punk's head bounced off the car door, and he crumpled to the ground immediately. This wasn't a wrestling move, this was an assault. Before Punk could even process what happened, Bronson Reed appeared and hit a devastating sentence splash on Punk while he was down. 300 pounds of pure mass crushing Punk against the concrete. The sound of that impact echoed through the parking lot. This was attempted murder on live television. Let me ask you, should WWE even be showing violence this graphic, or is this exactly the kind of intensity that makes wrestling compelling? Sound off below. And here's the part that makes my blood boil: this wasn't a spontaneous attack. This was planned. The Vision members were waiting for Punk, hiding in the parking lot, coordinating their ambush like military operatives. This was premeditated assault, and it shows just how dangerous Paul Heyman's faction has become. Breakker and Reed didn't stop with one attack. They proceeded to beat CM Punk for what felt like an eternity but was probably 2 to 3 minutes of uninterrupted violence. Breakker hit multiple power bombs on the concrete. Reed threw Punk into car hoods, into doors, into anything that could cause maximum damage. This wasn't wrestling, this was a mugging. The worst part? The camera operators were right there, filming everything. Security was nowhere to be found. Other wrestlers who were presumably still in the building? Absent. It was just Punk, his attackers, and the WWE production crew documenting his destruction for the world to see. CM Punk tried to fight back, credit to him for that, but he was immediately overwhelmed by two younger, fresher opponents who had the element of surprise. He threw a few desperate punches at Breakker, tried to create separation from Reed, but it was futile. This was a massacre, not a fight. Question: could CM Punk have done anything differently to survive this ambush, or was he doomed the moment they attacked? Give me your tactical analysis. Bron Breakker was absolutely vicious in this attack. Every move was delivered with intent to injure. He wasn't performing wrestling moves for entertainment, he was trying to hurt Punk as badly as possible. That spine buster on the car hood? That could have legitimately broken Punk's back. The suplex on the concrete? That could have caused a concussion or worse. And Bronson Reed? The man is a monster. His power moves are devastating under normal circumstances, but using them in a parking lot environment with no protective mat? That's criminal. The repeated sentence splashes could have crushed Punk's ribs, punctured his lungs, caused internal bleeding. This was serious. The beating continued until Paul Heyman finally appeared, emerging from a limousine that had been parked nearby the entire time. Of course Heyman was there. Of course he orchestrated this. The man is a genius at psychological warfare, and what better way to break CM Punk's spirit than to have him beaten unconscious while nobody comes to save him? Heyman stood over Punk's broken body with that smug expression on his face, the look of a man who's completely in control, who's winning the war, who knows that CM Punk is running out of options, allies, and most importantly, time. Heyman grabbed a microphone because of course he did and delivered a chilling promo over Punk's unconscious form. He said something along the lines of, "This is what happens to people who stand against the vision. This is the fate of anyone who refuses to acknowledge the new order of Monday Night Raw. CM Punk, you are alone. You have always been alone. And now, you will be forgotten." Brutal. Absolutely brutal. Not just the physical beating, but the psychological destruction of telling Punk that his resistance means nothing, that nobody cares enough to help him, that he's fighting a losing battle. Question for the Heyman historians: where does this rank among Paul Heyman's most evil moments in wrestling? Top 5? Top 10? And then Logan Paul appeared. The man who betrayed Punk weeks ago, who's been celebrating his spot in the vision, who represents everything wrong with modern wrestling. Logan stood over Punk's body, took a selfie with the scene, and posted it to social media in real time. That might be the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in wrestling. Not just attacking someone, but documenting it, celebrating it, turning someone's pain into content for clicks and engagement. Logan Paul has officially become the most despicable heel in all of WWE, and I mean that is both a compliment to his heel work and an indictment of his character. The segment ended with medical personnel finally arriving too late to prevent the attack, of course, and attending to CM Punk while the Vision members walked away laughing, celebrating their successful ambush like it was a victory worth celebrating. And here's what kills me: the announcers kept asking, "Where is everyone? Why isn't anyone helping?" as if they couldn't believe the locker room abandonment either. Even the commentary team was disgusted by the lack of support for CM Punk. So let me ask the critical question: where was everybody? Where was Seth Rollins, who claims he's going to burn down the Vision? Wasn't he in the arena? Didn't he hear the commotion? Or was he too busy planning his own moment to actually help when it mattered? Where was Drew McIntyre? Where was Sami Zayn? Where was anyone who's supposedly a locker room leader or a good guy who should be standing against this kind of tyranny? The only logical explanations are: 1. Nobody knew this was happening, which seems impossible given the cameras and production crew. 2. People were too scared of the Vision to intervene, which is cowardly. 3. People don't like CM Punk enough to risk themselves, which is damning for Punk's reputation. 4. The Vision has so much power that helping Punk means becoming their next target, which is terrifying. Which explanation do you think is correct? Or is there another reason I'm missing? Drop your theories in the comments. This beatdown exposed the fundamental problem with CM Punk's approach to fighting the Vision. He's been doing it alone. He refused help when it was offered, he pushed potential allies away because of his trust issues, and now he's paying the price for that isolation. Yes, Punk has legitimate reasons not to trust people. He's been betrayed by Logan Paul, he's watched others get manipulated by Paul Heyman, and his entire career has taught him that relying on others leads to disappointment. But at some point, pride becomes stubbornness, and stubbornness becomes suicide. Punk needed help. He needs help. And until he swallows his pride and accepts that he can't defeat an entire faction by himself, we're going to keep watching him get destroyed in parking lots, backstage areas, and eventually, maybe permanently. Controversial question: is CM Punk's refusal to accept help making him a martyr or just making him stupid? There's a difference between being principled and being self-destructive. The physical toll on CM Punk is becoming unsustainable. This is a man who's already dealing with injuries from previous attacks, who's not as young as he used to be, whose body has been through decades of wrestling punishment. How many more beatings can he take before something breaks permanently? And that's not just kayfabe concern, that's real concern for Phil Brooks, the human being. Wrestling is fake, but the damage is real. The bumps on concrete are real. The stress on his body is real. At what point does WWE's responsibility for talent safety override the desire to tell a compelling story? Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed both looked like absolute stars in this segment. They were vicious, dominant, and completely believable as unstoppable monsters. This attack elevated both of them significantly and established them as legitimate main event threats. But here's the problem: if they're this dominant, if they can destroy CM Punk this easily, who's going to believably beat them? That's the challenge WWE faces when booking monster heels too strongly. You eventually have to find someone who can overcome them without making the monsters look weak retroactively. Who in WWE is strong enough to believably beat Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed after what we saw tonight? Give me your top 3 candidates. The social media reaction to this segment was immediate and massive. CM Punk was trending worldwide, the Vision was trending, and hashtag Save CM Punk became a rallying cry from fans who were devastated watching their hero get destroyed. But here's what's interesting: the reactions were split. Some fans were horrified and wanted immediate justice for Punk. Others were frustrated with Punk for putting himself in this position by refusing help. That division in the fanbase is actually perfect for storytelling because it creates authentic emotional investment. The backstage fallout from this attack will be crucial for next week's Raw. How does the locker room respond? Do people feel guilty for not helping? Do they justify their inaction? Do they finally rally around Punk, or does this further isolate him? And what about CM Punk himself when he returns? Does this beating humble him and make him accept help? Does it make him more determined to fight alone? Does it break his spirit completely? Each option leads to different storytelling opportunities. Paul Heyman's master plan seems to be working perfectly. He's not just defeating CM Punk physically, he's defeating him psychologically by proving that nobody cares enough to save him. That's next-level villainy. The Vision now has all the momentum on Monday Night Raw. They've destroyed CM Punk multiple times, they've recruited Logan Paul, and they've established themselves as the most dominant faction in recent WWE history. The question is, who can stop them? Here's a wild prediction: what if this beating is what finally forces unlikely alliances? What if seeing Punk destroyed makes Seth Rollins put aside his ego? What if it brings GUSO back to the light? What if it forces the entire Raw locker room to unite against the Vision? That would be compelling storytelling. The beating that was meant to destroy CM Punk instead becomes the catalyst that unites everyone against the Vision. The martyr whose sacrifice inspires revolution. But knowing WWE, they might just have Punk return next week like nothing happened, which would undermine the entire segment and make this seem like meaningless violence. Let's hope they're smarter than that. Question: how long should CM Punk be off television after this beating to make it feel legitimate? 1 week? 2 weeks? A month? The parking lot setting for this attack was brilliant from a production standpoint. It felt real, it felt dangerous, and it felt like anything could happen. This wasn't a controlled environment like a wrestling ring, this was chaos, and that made it so much more impactful. But it also raises questions about security at WWE events. How did the Vision members get access to lie in wait? Where were the security guards? Why wasn't CM Punk given protection considering he's been targeted repeatedly? These are questions WWE needs to address in storyline. The medical update on CM Punk will be crucial. If WWE announces he's legitimately injured, that adds realism and stakes. If he shows up next week, fine, it diminishes what we saw. The follow-through is everything. Final questions before we wrap. 1. Should WWE pull CM Punk from television temporarily to sell this beating? 2. Who should be the first person to come to Punk's aid when he returns? 3. Does this beating finally force Punk to accept he needs allies? 4. Will anyone face consequences for not helping Punk? Give me your answers to all of these. Here's my ultimate take: this parking lot ambush was incredible television that successfully generated massive emotion, heat on the Vision, and sympathy for CM Punk. But it also exposed the cowardice of the Raw locker room and the stubbornness of Punk himself. Moving forward, WWE must deliver meaningful consequences and follow through. This can't be forgotten by next week. Punk's eventual revenge must be satisfying, and the locker room's failure to help must be addressed. Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed are stars. Logan Paul is the most hated man in wrestling. Paul Heyman is a genius. And CM Punk is broken. That's where we stand, and where we go from here will determine whether this was a masterpiece or just another forgotten beatdown. Let me know everything in the comments. Are you angry about the locker room's inaction? Do you feel bad for CM Punk or think he brought this on himself? What should happen next? And if you made it this far, drop save Punk if you want the locker room to finally help him, or Punk's pride if you think he should keep fighting alone. Subscribe for wrestling analysis that cares about these characters, like if this segment had you emotional. And share because everyone needs to discuss the moral implications of this attack. Until next time, stand up for what's right, help your brothers, and I'll see you in the next one.